I've been doing this for 29 plus years, and one of the things I look to avoid is increased complexity in the supply chain, particularly if you're with a small company that's a startup. Uh, you don't have the bandwidth to manage a complex supply chain network. So ideally, my preference would be to look at our pipeline, internal pipeline, and say, based on the pipeline, what are the best CDMOs to work with, who can not just support us in the near term, but in the long term, and help you bring all the products in your pipeline to the market, right? So being a little more selective in the process, and thinking about it in the kind of a golf analogy, uh, uh, playing the long game, right? So you're not looking for short-term impact, but saying, okay, I have 12 products in my pipeline. Which of these CDMOs can help support all 12 products in my pipeline? And so that's been my approach to working and selecting CDMOs. And ideally, again, like I said, small, startups, the tech ops organization is relatively small. So, unlike a big Pfizer or an AstraZeneca or Takeda, Shire, we don't have the bandwidth. Tech ops might be 5 people at the most. So you have one drug product head, one, drug substance head, one API head. So keeping it simple allows us to manage our CDMOs more effectively, right? So again, it has to fit the business model that we have in the smaller startups. Again, very different from the large pharma where they have huge external sourcing organization that can manage a complex supply chain network. Smaller startups can't do that.
Manny, I wonder whether if you are a virtual biotech and you are starting out with certain modalities and targets, if you decide maybe to go one direction or another based on that you have to outsource and you don't have all the uh, capabilities and human resources that you just said. Does that influence if you what you even desire to develop?
So there are some companies, I was part of one, and I see somebody on the attendees list who I used to work with, Daniel Watson. Uh, some companies have decided that, what, outsourcing is a risk, quality gets impacted, we're going to build in-house facility, right? Pfizer did that with Seagen, right? Or Seagen did that, and now Pfizer acquired them. Guess what happened to all the folks at that plant? They've been made redundant, right? I think Pfizer is most likely going to get rid of the asset as well. So building an asset is not something that I would recommend for a small startup, right? You're better off using outsourced manufacturers because they usually have the capability, and more importantly, they can actually do it for cheaper than internal costs.